Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. So glad you are here with us today. My name is Donna Lynch, and I'm with the Resource Center for Family Focused Practice. And we are so exciting. It's the afternoon already today, everyone. We are so excited you are joining us for our webinar today, Diverse and Trauma-Informed Practices, Building Skills for Equitable and Service Delivery. I'm going to let everybody have a chance to get their technology going on, get on camera, get their sound going. If you need any assistance with technology, I have the incomparable James Williams here with me today. He is the master of ceremonies. Go ahead and send him a private message, or you can send me a private message, and we would be happy to help you get all settled in and settled up with your technology. Lorena, good morning. Heather, how are you? Juan, good, so good to see you again. Rachel, all my friends are here today. I'm so excited. I would love to invite you to please introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your role, your county. And my favorite icebreaker lately is, what is your superpower working alongside youth and families? What is your superpower? Name, role, county, and what is your superpower? Chanel, how are you? So glad you're joining us today. Maria T, how's it going? Awesome. Awesome. Again, my name is Donna Lynch, and I'm with the Resource Center for Family Focused Practice. We are so excited you are here and joining us today. Today's session is Diverse and Trauma-Informed Practices, Building Skills for Equitable Service Delivery. Today's webinar is designed to create spaces for reflection, discussion, and practical learning as we work together to build more equitable and healing-centered practices. I'd love to go into a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be posted to our website shortly after, so look in the next few weeks. A PDF version of the presentation will be shared today in the chat and will also be made available on our website alongside the recording. Our presenter, Shavonna Gaylor, does encourage interaction during the presentation today. So please feel free at any time to use your raise your hand feature at any point, or you can absolutely drop your questions within the chat, and I would be happy to present your question for you during the session. I would love for you all to mark your calendars. On Thursday, June 6th, from 1 to 1:30, Shavonna will be returning for a follow-up focus session. This is a smaller, more conversational space where we can have a deeper dive into today's themes and topics that Shavonna will be presenting for us today. You will not want to miss, and hopefully you can join us for that. I do want to take a quick moment and extend my deepest appreciation for my partner, Kayla Grandison, from the California Department of Social Services, the Family Centered Practice Unit. Without Kayla's unwavering support and partnership, webinars like these would not be possible. So Kayla, thank you for championing these spaces where lived experience and professional practice can come together to transform systems. You are amazing. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Shavonna Gaylor. Shavonna is a nationally respected therapist, education, speaker, and author with over 2 decades of experience in clinical care, program leadership, and community-based healing. She's the founder of GRASP, Gaining Respect Through Actively Seeking Perspective, and has extensive experience in trauma recovery, racial justice, secondary trauma, and wraparound services and equity-driven practices. She currently serves as the Director of Education and Resiliency at Purpose, Dignity, Action in Seattle, where she leads professional development and well-being initiatives for system professionals. Her work is infused with insight, compassion, and real-world tools you can use immediately. We're honored to have Shavonna here today. And with that, Shavonna, I would love to turn it over to you. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for that, Donna. I really appreciate it. Hi, beautiful people. I am so happy to be here with all of you. I am absolutely thrilled. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I am going to share my screen now, and we're going to get this party started.
This is my favorite part, Shavonna. I get to shake my shoulders.
Not yet.
Oh,
All right. So, as you heard, I'm Shavana. Really, and my superpower is love. I call myself not your average therapist because I believe in the healing power of love and relationship. And I am just so excited to be here with all of you today. And we'll talk about how that love translates into practical skills and tools that we can use to show up and create a sense of belonging for other folks, for everyone. So we're going to talk about set our intentions. We're going to go over definitions. We're going to talk about belonging, and what does it mean to be trauma informed. Look at some self-awareness. So I'm going to ask for some courage here, some bravery. Grasp my model, but really we're going to discuss it a little bit. Talk about adult learning styles, and then we're going to really look practically at how to apply some of these learning styles and how to create that sense of belonging with in-person versus virtual trainings, in the in-person versus virtual world, and conflict management. And then we're going to have a discussion. Like Donna said, I absolutely love if you have an idea, a story, a personal recount, an example, a complaint, whatever it is, while we're talking about a certain topic, please share. My hope is that I will say something that will resonate with you. And I know that when you speak, you will share something that resonates with me and will emerge on the other side of this time wiser, stronger, better. So that's the goal that I have for us today, and I'm excited about hearing from all of you. Now, let's go into our acknowledgement. We acknowledge this country's unique history and troublesome present in a lot of ways, which includes innovations, strengths, and many travesties. We recognize the land, labor, and sacrifices of ancestors before us. And it's important to me to recognize that. And so also in our space together, I'm gonna ask that we kind of all teach, all learn. We don't know everything, but we know a lot together. And come from a place of curiosity. I may say something that comes out in a way that doesn't necessarily feel good to you, or you may say something that, especially in our language, maybe I say a word or you say a word. Let's come from a place of curiosity and let's learn together. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I ask you to do the same for me. Let's assume positive intent, and let's listen and share. And there is value in hearing all of your voices, all of your voices. With that said, I'd be kind of hypocritical if I talk about embracing different styles, but have the expectation of you only sharing in one way. You can unmute yourself, but if that feels uncomfortable, feel free to share it in the chat. Whatever way feels comfortable for you to make your voice heard, we just want you to engage. Okay? Any thoughts, ideas, complaints or anything we want to add to the norms? No? We good? All good? Okay.
Right.
We're going to go to the next slide. If I know how to do it.
You're doing great.
So everyone, as we're getting ready to create our intentions and time together with me, yes, I'm a licensed mental health professional, mental health expert, specialized in supporting those kind of in the mud of that trauma, and we get into that mud together and we heal through it. And I love, love, love. My new passion is helping organizations take care of the people who take care of everyone else, like the heroes like you. I saw in the chat, someone said that they have lived experience, and I like to say lived and living experience, because the interesting thing is when we hire individuals or when we're seeking someone and they say lived experience, the experience doesn't stop living once you start that job. The experience is still living. The dynamics that are associated with our healing, our journey, our passions are still happening in our lives. So I say lived and living experience. I heard some folks say that that's their superpower. I heard some folks say that their care for others, their ability to really be passionate about others and to really care for others and lean into that. So you are the heroes. You are the superheroes that I love supporting and serving. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some difficult topics, but I promise you it'll be fun. Now, join me in possibly listening to a commercial first. boogieing with me for a moment. And why did I play
That got
that?
me going, Shavonna. Thanks.
Why did I play? First of all, this is my opportunity to really connect and boogie with you for these next couple hours. Also, music is a great uniter. It's an incredible force, something that people who differ on everything and anything else can have in common. And I wanted us to share that experience together and see that there are ways to create connection and belonging, even through music, just a practical way. Am I missing anything in the chat before we go to the next slide?
Nope, everybody enjoyed the music. That was awesome. Thank you for that. It resonated us and grounded us for all the information ready to come. So thanks, Shavonna.
Thank you. Now, that we boogied, I'm gonna ask us to be brave in this space. I'm gonna ask you to ask the tough questions. And an example of that bravery, I have a really, really, really close friend who is one of the trainers for UC Davis and who I worked with alongside Danae for a while, one of my dear friends. And I remember during an uprising about a travesty related to police violence, and police brutality and the murder of a Black male, we were sitting together and we were having lunch. And she said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Well, why is it that when something like a tragedy happens or people are upset, especially in the African American community, it seems like they riot and destroy their own areas, their own neighborhoods?" That question took a lot of bravery. It took a lot of bravery. And we had an amazing conversation. I'll tell you one of my answers to her. I said, have you ever been frustrated with your technology? Say you're working on a project, you're working on something very powerful, like something important. You got a deadline, you're working on it, and then your technology freezes, crashes, you lose your thing. And you are so frustrated that everything in you wants to toss your freaking computer out the window. You hit the computer, or you want to toss your phone, or you're irritated. All that emotion wells up in you, and maybe you have the wherewithal to not hit the computer or not throw it. I've known, I don't know, maybe you have that filter. But so that that if you destroy your computer or throw your phone, it's not going to get you closer to the goal of achieving your project that you're working on. But in that moment, all the emotion has welled up so much that you just want to destroy something. And I said, now take that and think about the injustice, generational injustice and pain and travesty, and it all welling up, and you just want something. You just have to get. And she was like, that makes sense. And she gave me some perspective, and we had a really good conversation. But because we came from a place of curiosity instead of, why the hell would you ask me that? That doesn't, so no, it was just a really good discussion. And I give that example because that's the bravery that it takes for us to heal. On both parts. That's the bravery that it takes for us to heal. So I'm asking for us to have a brave space today and be open to share what's on your heart and mind, questions, thoughts, complaints. And some of the conversation may be a little difficult. So we're going to breathe to level set ourselves. I'm going to count us down. We're going to go in through the nose, hold, and slowly out through the mouth. And when we release out through the mouth, I'm going to ask us to drop our shoulders, release the tension in our jaws, just fully relax our muscles and try to bring ourselves present. So on the count of 3, we're going to deep in through the nose, hold, and slowly out through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, slowly out through the mouth. 2, 3, 4. All right. So 3, 2, 1, let's go. Let's start with we hear these, like some of you who have been in my last presentation with the echo, you are familiar with some of this. So this may be reminders, but with echo, we got to speed through it. Now we have a little more time. So we're here, DEI. What is it? It's been weaponized. And one of the most impactful things that I learned about clinically, right? I was working with someone and getting training on working with domestic violence perpetrators. And they said, this always resonated with me. We don't remember everything, but this piece of information resonated with me. And they said in groups, when they're doing groups with perpetrators of domestic violence or interpersonal violence, intimacy violence, they require that the individuals in the group refer to their loved one by their name. And they said, because of course, when you objectify someone, and excuse my language, you all, I can hurt a bitch, a hoe, my baby mama, but it's hard for me to hurt Mary or Keisha or Sarah, right? So when you objectify or relegate something to letters or an object as opposed to the actual words, when I think about the words diversity, equity, inclusion, and I'm going to read this specifically. Equity, diversity and inclusion, or this says EDI, I like that it mixed it up, but is a conceptual framework that promotes the fair treatment and full participation of all people, especially populations that have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination because of their background, identity, disability, and etc. I think, okay, we hear it being weaponized. Oh, DEI, right? Thinking fair treatment and full participation of all people. How could that in any way be seen as a bad thing, right? I just want a world where people are treated kindly. I just want a world where people. So equity involves providing resources according to the need to help diverse populations achieve their highest state of health and other functioning. Diversity refers to the representation of compositions of various social identity groups in a work group, organization, or community. And then we have the inclusion, strives for an environment that offers affirmation, celebration, and appreciation of different approaches, styles, perspectives, and experiences. So now I'm going to back up. I came from a place of judgment. I just said, how can anybody not want DEI? I'm going to check myself. I have to come from a place of curiosity. So the purpose of me sharing this definition is so that if a person does have a challenge with it, they know exactly what they have a problem with. Because I think that there are a lot of misconceptions around what diversity or equity or inclusion mean. So the whole goal is for us to be informed and be able to make informed decisions about what we support, what we promote, what we engage with, and what we advocate for. Any thoughts, questions? I'd love to hear reflections on kind of what I just said. Any thoughts on this slide?
I invite you to use your raise your hand feature, come off mute, throw it in the chat. I will answer it for you if you're feeling a little bit shy. But I did want to say, Shavana, I loved your reflection around naming the person, that it's more difficult to harm when we're calling the person by name. And I often struggle with the use of the word perpetrator as well in regards to intimate partner violence. And how do we humanize both aspects when that dynamic of the relationship is not necessarily healthy and they're interacting in a very unhealthy way? And I really appreciate that lens of just kind of we're just going to call them by their name. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Check the chat as well, just in case folks maybe wanted to enter their reflections there.
And I know it's afternoon and it's after lunch and we're all kind of have that afternoon lull, but we do appreciate participation and any thoughts and considerations you do have. So at any time, please lean in.
And I also honor folks' ability to just digest. Sometimes at lunch, you're getting that information and you're just taking it in. And I respect that. And you may be multitasking, and I respect that too. That doesn't mean that your ears and your heart aren't open. I respect it. So if you choose to come off mute later, let me know, but I'm going to keep going, all right? I see eyes and beautiful, I see open hearts and minds and smiles. They're with us. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about belonging. I mentioned that earlier, right? So diversity, as we kind of defined before, is kind of being invited to the party without having to chase the invite. It's like, okay, we want diversity. We want everybody at the party. right? But inclusion is, okay, we want everybody at the party and we're going to play different music and have different decorations that are going to be inclusive of everybody who's here, right? Okay, we want to make sure that what's your favorite song? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite song? We're going to dance to everybody's song so we have a chance to all, and we're going to have that openness and we're going to try all the different foods without judgment. We're going to include, right? Now, equity is being able to attend the dance without any barriers. So it's like, hey, anybody have any access issues, or what is there anything that anybody needs to be able to show up? Who needs gas? Who needs a ride? Who needs, does anybody need anything to be able to show up? Because we really want you there. So we want to create an environment where you can be there. Now, belonging adds all of it. Belonging says, I want it diverse. I would like you included. And I want to provide also an access so that you can also know that, hey, I'm willing to go the extra mile to make sure you feel welcome. And you know what it feels like to belong. With your people, they are your soft place to land, right? If anybody is willing to say where their place is, to like where they feel like they belong. If before I go into that, I'd love to discuss Elizabeth's comment. She said, no issues with DEI here. I just want to ask, what is the opposite of woke? I will call that asleep. Who wants to live their life asleep? Whoa. So there is a concern about woke culture or culture that's too progressive or too open. And it's, there's a lot of play on words. There's some strong views right now. We're dealing with some major situations where our nation is polarized and our communities can be polarized in ways that can also lead to harm. And it's difficult. It's difficult. And at the same time, that passion that we have and that passion and that advocacy and that fight, I ask us to also enter conversations and spaces with some curiosity, which is hard, especially if people you love or are connected to, or you have a personal relationship or connection to ways that differences have harmed. It's really, really hard to come from a place of curiosity. And I think that openness and curiosity is what it's going to take for us to heal and move forward and to survive. So thank you. Thank you for your courageous comment. Thank you. And so let's go back to belonging. When have you entered a space? Tell anybody willing to share, like you've gone to an event and you are like, these are my people. You just feel immediately at home when you walk into this space. Like you just feel like, yes, I have arrived. I am so glad to be here. And it's just a comfort. I see Tasha raised her hand.
I think anytime I walk into an AA meeting, those are my people. That's where I can be vulnerable. That's where I can be open and honest about what's ever going on, right? So no matter what, I can show up there and do my true authentic self without any judgment.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Tasha. You were breaking up a little bit for me, but I definitely heard you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you have that space where you feel like you will, man, and we all need it. Aliana, and I hope I'm pronouncing, is it Aliana or Aliana?
It's Aliana.
Aliana.
Thank you. So I would say I had recently attended the Foster Youth Education Summit in LA, and personally, I felt like this was a space of community, being surrounded by kids that were about to graduate high school, who are navigating the complexities of college and then recent graduates. And for me, I'm a recent graduate, and just being in those spaces and finding that comfortability of, I guess, not just trauma dumping, but like also understanding all of the complexities of the foster care system. We were so aligned with each other's missions. So that was a space of comfortability for me.
Wonderful. Danae, thank you for sharing as well. Thank you. And, as you all are sharing, we notice that as we're talking about belonging, I don't think it specifically has to do with you're not sharing spaces that where people have to look like you, right? We can create belonging with looking and having different backgrounds and having diversity. We can still have belonging. Anyone else want to share before we go to the next slide?
I think every time I walk into church, I just have that overwhelming sense of calm and relief. And I can't wait to sit down, and when we get to the greeting where you get to turn around and say good morning to everyone. That's it. I'm that person where everyone's like, oh, dang it, we have to say good morning.
Yes, the hugs. A couple comments about meetings, support groups, meetings, recovery groups, where that feeling like that sense of belonging there. And Lorena said UC Davis was her place of belonging for the first time. I'm going to read it. She felt connected with a peer hub and knew that they were her people, felt seen, heard, and welcomed, and felt safe to be open. Oh, that is it. That is what belonging creates. Yes, that is what belonging creates. Ooh, Danny, her first roller derby recruitment. Unbelievably empowering. Hear and feel the energy, strength reverberating from everyone was just empowering. Girl, you make me want to join the roller derby. Yes. And I thought about it too.
Never too late. But yeah, you could just feel it. You could just feel it. And then to continue on just a titch, when things came up, strong things came up, when one person hurt, everyone could, it's just an emotion, partially because I think it's made up of a good portion of marginalized people, trying to kind of expand to get all the aspects of that. And so when you feel when the community, it's almost like having the pulse of the community a little bit. I know it sounds maybe a little, I don't know, ferocious for a sporting team, but that just, because many of the people are so entrenched in their community and trying to do better for the community, and they find that as their outlet, you often find yourself. And so there's the energy around it is like that. It's and it continually just recycles.
Thank you so much for sharing. And you don't have to minimize the power. Yeah, that judgment that goes for that as well. We don't have to minimize the power. We feel it. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Meg said being hired onto her first rap team, walking at women's marches. As we continue and we go into practical ways for you all to create that belonging, I want you to think about the aspects of places where you felt you belong, and where that, and think about what dynamics created that. You've already been sharing, but we're going to talk about ways to create that sense of belonging. Attending their first group in Spanish, support group in Spanish. That's awesome. Anyone else want to share before we go to the next slide? Okay. Oh, Irene, yes. Hi, Irene.
Hi, everybody. I just want to share something funny that happened, and I can just relate to every single one. My daughter started doing color guard, something that it's so new. I didn't think she was going to do it. I wanted her to be like a basketball or something. She wanted to throw flags and do all these things. So I was like, okay, so I need to look for the favorite shirt, for the family. So my baby has, I'm just here for my flipping sister because they flip flags. So everybody's like, oh my God, your shirts are so cool. And my daughter was just like, oh my gosh, mom, like everybody like knows you now. And you just started doing this. And even though in the bottom of my heart, I just felt like, oh my God, do I fit in? Like Spanish is my first language, this is something new, but I was just like, trust me, in the bottom of my heart, like I was feeling that fear. But right there, I like that one, like having the music to dance and not being judged for your moves. Like, trust me, I had the flag going, and my daughter was just like, thank you, mom, and I think just teaching her like, hey, like, I'm just gonna be your number one cheerleader, and just people might judge, people might talk, but just accept who you are. And I'm just loud, and it's in Spanish and in English. I don't care. But I was just like, just wanted to share that how like it felt, her being on championships and like doing all these things. And I didn't even know what I was doing, to be honest. I was like, do I scream at this time? They're like so like quiet doing their dance. And I'm like, should I be clapping at this time? A flag just fell on the floor. And I see people clapping over the flag or the rifle on the floor. And I was like, I don't care. I'm just gonna clap. I want to fit in. I want to learn. So next time I know what to do. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Your courage and your boldness and your support for her is why she's able to be so bold in trying new things and has the courage to try new things. You cultivated that bravery in her, and you continue to show that to her. What a gift. What a gift. What a gift. Yeah. Jasmine said, being a football mom, I love it and feel so at home down there on the field with my boy. That's awesome. You all are some dynamic parents. And you were talking about like you created inclusion. You're like, we're gonna belong here. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. All right, y'all, we're gonna go to the next slide. So how do we create that? How do we create that feeling we were just discussing? And I say leaders focus on building belonging because you all are leaders. The fact that you're here learning today on an afternoon, that shows that you are leaders. You are leaders in this. We just heard about how to lead and support. You are leaders. So I wanted to make sure you had some practical steps on how to create that sense of belonging kind of in professional settings. So one, we create intentional opportunities for connection. Danae was mentioning church, and a couple of people mentioned in the chat recovery groups. What do they do? And there's a similar portion where we offer and invite folks to engage. We welcome people. We invite them to share who they are, or they're welcoming back. I've been to a couple churches where the church was so big and I didn't feel like people noticed, recognized, saw me, or that my presence made a difference. But by creating those, get to know your neighbor, get to know someone, or have an accountability partner, or have a support person, or here's a mentor, we create opportunities for connection, or lunch meetings, or lunch and learns. What are some opportunities that maybe your employers or your workspaces have created some intentional opportunities for connection? Does anyone have any good examples of that? I know it's probably pretty hard right now in our virtual space. I know sometimes even our staff meetings can start with ways to try to create opportunities for engagement, even virtually. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how do we create belonging even in the virtual world. Also, flipping the script on uncertainty and failure. Like me just noticing that I was coming from a place of judgment and being able to say, I'm sorry. I realized that I wasn't coming from a space of curiosity. It is so powerful. Those of you who are parents, because I heard that there are a lot of parents in the room, have you ever taken the time and seen the power of going to your kid and saying, I'm sorry. I was out of line. I was in a bad mood, or I took it out on you, or I misinterpreted that thing. My bad, I'm sorry. And being able to acknowledge that I make mistakes too, and we can support each other through the mistakes, or through what looks like failure, or through what feels like uncertainty. And seeing those uncertainties as opportunity. We have some really outstanding parents in the room who I know have had those moments with their kids. If anybody wants to share, feel free. I always leave space for anyone to share should they choose. Or even as a director, as a leader, being able to say, hey, we didn't handle that situation well. We're going back to the drawing board and we want to revamp. Donna, you have something to share?
Yes, Meg put in the chat a training that I took recently on neuropsychology, of wraparound was talking about finding small, silly, seemingly Seeming commonalities can set folks at ease, for example, liking the same sports teams, music, or ice cream flavor.
That is awesome. Yes, that is definitely a way of creating that belonging, those opportunities for connection.
I I would agree with that, but I would also say, and maybe this sounds a little sneaky, but it's also setting aside your likes and showing interest in theirs, even if it isn't. I am as you see by my reaction to people's comments, I'm a metalhead through and through, but my son is not that way. I was trying to share music with him that had helped me through a lot of various times, and it wasn't. He'd be like, "Yeah, that's cool, but," right, and I didn't really like, but. And there was a couple of things between that and some of the video games, we differ in that, but showing that interest, it was almost like a switch that turned when I would just ask him to explain something about it to me. I would explain, hey, tell me about, more about this particular game and what you really like about it. I didn't, not trying to get philosophical with him, but just wanting him to teach me really helped strengthen our relationship more, and work to rebuild some trust that we had lost over a little bit of the years for a variety of things. But it was me having to take that step of, it doesn't have to be my interest. I don't have to necessarily, and it doesn't have to be, but in this moment, it needs to be about him and sharing that experience and not feigning it, but just being naturally curious. So.
That is so good. You are guiding us into what we're going to cover a little later by actively seeking the other person's perspective. Thank you for giving that example, Danny. We have two hands. I saw one before Lorena. What was the hand that was before Lorena?
Gina.
Hi. Hello. Love to hear from you.
Kind of going off of what Danny had said, that I have 5 children, and driving in the car with them, like their big thing was when they hit 12, they could drive in the front seat with me. And so I like to, whoever's sitting in the front seat, I let them pick the music that we're listening to when we're driving. And it's cute because we all have kind of similarities with stuff, but it's just neat kind of hearing, like, and especially like my son, because he's my youngest now and he's going to be 16, and he'll come in and he just talks about these things, and you just see the light up of just how much he loves that interest is within him, and to the point where even I was able to, because I listen to my music, but like where I'm able to kind of share, like, oh, this reminds me of when I was a sophomore in high school, or it brings me back to this, and where he's just like, oh, that's cool, like, so it just kind of creates that space for talking with each other. And then I just also wanted to add to that, about coming back and saying, I'm sorry, or like talking about those things that we do. I think it's very important, because one of the, we're teaching our kids all these things all the time, and one of the things we teach them is how to apologize. We're real big when they're little, like you hit your sister, or you took a toy from her, or you do something to say, I'm sorry, because we don't do that. We have to do that same type of thing, and to be able to say, hey, I shouldn't have done this, or like, I'm really sorry for this, and then just kind of keep going with it. And so they know that it's not just them doing the wrong things, because we do wrong too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you create that bravery for them to come to you with mistakes. So that definitely is valuable. And you had me wanting to sit in the front seat of the car with you. Sounds like a good experience. Thank you for sharing that. Lorena?
Yeah, I wanted to share a situation that actually came up real recent. I think it was on Mother's Day. We were on our way to my in-laws' house, and we were having a conversation. My husband and I were talking, and my 10-year-old was interrupting our conversation, like jumping in. And so my husband was like, what, when we talk, you like to interrupt a lot. So I told my son, I was communicating with him about having respect, being able to wait your turn and all that. And then my son goes, but you know what, Mom? I learned that from you because sometimes you do that to me too. When I'm talking, you'll interrupt and you'll ask Daddy a question. So I have learned it from you. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm going to hold myself accountable to that. And I'm going to say, you know what? Even Mommy has something to work on too. So, together we can work on this of showing respect, being respectful of one another. And it was like a moment for me because I could have took it a different way and been like, you know what?
He
You
said,
know,
we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. And you're the
right,
one who's right,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, and so it was an opportunity because I was like, you know what? He's right. Like they model after what they see, and sometimes I think we get caught up in like, that they're always being observant, and they're catching things that we may not be observant of. And so it was an aha moment for us, and it was an opportunity for us to like, okay, now we have something to work on together as a family. So
Mhm. And it's huge because you being able to validate what he was saying and go ahead and say, okay, and I can learn this too, allowed also the message to resonate because realistically, now this is the therapist and me jumping in, if you had a kind of confronted his statement, then the entire conversation or core memory that he had would have been about Mom getting mad at me, as opposed to what we could learn together. Now it stayed about the thing stayed the thing, and it didn't become the anger being the thing, the learning stayed the thing, if that makes sense. Yes. And Meg is learning Pokemon, even though that is not her thing. With her kids, which is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anybody else? I love to flip the script on uncertainty and failure, because we can definitely create that in the workplace for sure. So that I think in the workplace that eliminates that competitive nature amongst each other, so that we can be open to allowing diversity and change. When we're all feeling like we're fighting for limited resources, it makes it hard to have uncertainty and failure when we're all in survival mode or competition mode. But being able to have a community says, I can pick you up when you're down, you can pick me up when I'm down, and we don't have to compete, we can collaboratively support each other. And then another way is showing humility by not assuming others' experiences. We can assume what the other person is going through. Well, when I started in that job, when I was a parent partner, or when I was a this, then I know it was like this. But really, and we're going to talk more about that, seeking to get the other person's perspective. Even sometimes people will seek clinicians that, well, if I lost my mom, I want another therapist that lost their mom, because that's the only person who's going to understand what I went through because they lost their mom. And what I realize is, their experience may be totally different. Their dynamics, their relationship with their parent, their grief, every experience can be completely different. Yes, there can be some supporting commonalities, but also every experience is unique. And really being able to take the time and not assume that from other people. Assuming other people, other people's experiences. And Wendy is over here learning TikToks.
And y'all,
Those classes are not easy, man.
let me tell you, I do not have Megan knees. They be popping and locking because I'm too old for that.
I love that you said popping and locking.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. We're gonna go to the next slide, and we're gonna continue talking about ways to create belonging. All right, now we're gonna talk about belonging and being equitable and inclusive through a trauma-informed lens. You all, I know this is a reminder for many of you. We know that being trauma-informed, and for those of you who is not a reminder, then hopefully there's some newness to share. If it's a reminder, feel free to share the ways that you integrate this into your everyday life, especially in the workplace. But being trauma-informed is a framework, not a modalities. People hear about cognitive behavioral therapy or EMDR therapy or these other kinds of therapy. It's not therapy, it's the way our mind works and the way we show up. It's embodied in the way that we show up and we interact with others. It merely means that we're practicing the understanding of neurological, psychological, and societal impacts of trauma. We know that there are layers of trauma that come from, the layers of impact that come from trauma. So when we're interacting with anyone, we're considering safety, we're considering trustworthiness, we're offering choices, we're collaborating, and we're encouraging that empowerment. So it's interesting how this can all be integrated into, yesterday I was going over this, being trauma informed, and I gave a presentation to public defenders. They were talking about some of their work with the community and how difficult it can be. And they were saying sometimes they have to go, or like pro bono legal teams. And they were saying sometimes they have to go and tell someone very unfavorable news or very difficult things. And they said that, you know, one was saying, I will go and I'll say, like, I know this is really difficult to hear, and the court is, you know, you're telling me the difficulties, these are the options that we have, and I know that neither of them sound favorable right now, but these are the options, and I'm really sorry that the options are so poor and that the system is not set up to advocate and to support you and provide you the safety that you deserve. And I was like, wow, you built trustworthiness and that vulnerability to be able to just be real. You gave choice. Like, these are the ways that avenue routes that we can go. You collaborated with them. Like, how can we proceed, right? And it empowered. It was difficult, but honoring that person and respecting them enough to say, "Hey, I'm sorry. This is what it is," and be real with them. And integrated all of that: safety, trustworthiness, choice, collaboration, and empowerment. I know that you all are doing that in your day-to-day work, and they're beautiful, meaningful ways that you're doing it. Another thing is, you know, when I've worked with youth, and think about it in wraparound family team meetings, something as simple as, how do you want to be contacted? Do you prefer having meetings in the morning or in the afternoon? Do you prefer text messages? Do you prefer, another example that we gave from an attorney was saying that sometimes nothing is going on with the case and they feel bad because there's nothing to report. So I gave the trauma-informed perspective of asking the person, you know, sometimes we can go months without anything to report. Would you prefer that I check in with you once a week, once every other week, or, you know, that I check in with you on a regular basis to tell you, hey, nothing to report yet? Or would you like me to wait until I have more information? And they gave the person the autonomy so they can actually choose. And I'm sure you do a lot of them. Are there ways, I would love to hear ways that you integrate some of these components into your day-to-day work. Anybody willing to share? Any creative ways you integrate safety, especially? I know with teenagers, you definitely got to give choice. You want the hot Cheetos or do you want, right? Tasha. Yes, Tasha, and then Danae.
I work with youth. I'm the first peer support specialist for Shasta County. I work with SCTP, so youth that should have been sent to youth authority, but there's no longer youth authority, so we house them here locally. And I think that I do a lot of just holding space for these youth to be that person that they come in and just being able to use lived experience and connecting with these youth. But I think the biggest tool besides music with them to get them to open up is to just hold space for them. Sometimes it's silence is what they want or is what they need. And it's in a juvenile hall, they don't get silence very often. So sometimes I'm able to do one-on-ones and we just sit in silence and we'll just play cards the whole time and not say 2 words to each other. But they know I'm there. They know I'm holding space and they know they can open up.
That's a way you're giving safety, you're giving empowerment, wow, and trustworthiness, because they can trust that they can be there in whatever capacity they need in that moment, and you can accept them fully in that. Instead of seeing that, I could imagine, you know, in the past that would have been seen as resistance. They're resistant to services. And really, they just needed some peace in that moment and a safe space to have that. Thank you for being that for them. Danae?
Yeah, Tasha, that resonated with me because I know after a long day, I need to de-escalate and just have some silence and quiet. And I couldn't imagine continually being in a space where that is not offered, that would be so just disheartening on my mind and my soul. So I'm so grateful you allow that space for the young people that you're sitting next to. So thank you for that. And, you know, when I was doing direct work with caregivers as a parent partner, we're trying to do all of these things, right? At the same time, where we want to empower those we're working alongside. We want to create trust, right? That mutual trusting relationship between myself and the caregiver and vice versa. Am I providing enough safety so they feel even comfortable to lean in and allow some support and help and guidance in whatever area they may need? Am I collaborating with the right people? Am I bringing the right people to the table? And am I providing choices to my caregiver? You know, I think that's a really important one that I appreciated as a parent partner, because I didn't want to do things for two families. I wanted to do them with them and allow a space for that feedback and conversation. If something didn't resonate with them or wasn't really sitting right, then all right, so what else can we think about? If this one's not working, was there something else we said that you might want to try or utilize? So these were very important in my role as parent partner work specifically. And I think now here at the Resource Center and kind of where I sit and in different arenas with, you know, California Department of Social Services and insert committee member meeting here, you're trying to also do these things for a level of, you know, I'm an expert in my field and you should probably listen to me if I say anything about peer parent partners. And I have to build all of these things to, you know, have that feedback be heard and taken as well. So I appreciate this, Shavonna. Thank you.
Thank you. And having been a witness to your parent partner work, I absolutely agree with you integrating all of these things.
Thank you.
Is it Gina or Jenna? I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly.
It's Gina.
Okay, Gina, we'd love to hear your voice again.
Thank you. Kind of going, I work mobile crisis, and you know, you're coming in with those families. I'm the parent partner with them, but you know, when we come in, they're in that crisis mode and everything, and it's so hard to, you know, building rapport and all that stuff that you got to do it in such a fast, so quick. And one of the biggest things that I have, you know, that I feel like I hold is that, well, one, because of my lived experience, but just being that open ear. And I can't tell you how many times I've had parents that are just like, especially when I do the follow-up call with them or something, and they're just like, no, I don't really have anything to say. You know, I don't know what, you know, what to do. And then I'll say, maybe give a little bit of some of the things that I've done with my kiddo, or, you know, my own lived stuff with it. And then the gates just open, and then they just talk. And how many parents have come and just been like, I didn't know that I needed to talk. And just thank you for listening. And, you know, I'm sorry that I just kind of verbally vomited all over you. And it's like, nope, that's what I'm here for. And holding that, you know, judgment free, and as much as I can, holding that judgment free zone and letting them feel that they can say those things that we don't sometimes want to say in front of other people, you know, because especially when it has to do with our babies and our kids, and, you know, you don't want to sound like I'm a horrible parent. And I'm just like, no, you're loving them, you're showing up, you know, and giving them also that, you know, that affirmation, and, you know, and just kind of building them up with it. And just what a difference that makes, just holding it just to listen, and how much that can make people not only feel empowered, but you're building that trust and giving them that safety to come in and say what they need to say. And anyway.
Thank you. That was helpful, very helpful. And you brought up a really good point. Appropriate disclosure can touch on many of these components. And I highlight, all caps, underline, italicize the appropriate. You have to ask yourself, when you are disclosing, is this for me or for them? If you find yourself oversharing, you know, it's one thing to share, you know, I had some experiences similar to you in that, you know, that struggle, and these are some of the ways I overcame it and some of the support. But if you're going into all the details and then they said, and then I said, and I was like, girl, and then it was, and then you're giving, then you're oversharing and is it at a certain point, is it for them or is it for me? So, however, being authentic and sharing your perspective, appropriate disclosure can build trust. It can give empowerment. It can build collaboration, all of that. So yes, there is significant power in appropriate disclosure, building that relationship. All right, we're gonna go to the next slide. So it starts with us. I have here self-awareness. The recognition of one's personal values, behaviors, and styles, including how these are perceived by others, along with insights, their potential impact. So we talked about leading with curiosity. I want to add here, focusing on impact as opposed to intent, right? All of our feelings are okay. We just have to be careful what we do with them. All of our feelings are okay. If I am extremely upset at my kid and want to slap the crap out of them, that feeling is okay. Doing it, not okay. What do? I have a choice at that point. What do I do with that feeling? Do I take a deep breath? Do I go relax? Do I walk away and then come back and have a conversation when I'm in a better space? The feelings are okay. Actually, I have something I wanted to go back to, if you all don't mind. On the previous slide, I wanted to talk about choice. I want to talk about the difficult choices. Sometimes offering choice and being trauma-informed doesn't feel so trauma-informed. It may not feel so trauma-informed. I was thinking about when we were talking before in the discussion, and I lost it and it came right back, about working with survivors of CSEC, survivors of human trafficking. And clinically, I've worked with some individuals and really everything in me wanted them to not go back out into, go back to their traffickers, wanted them not to go back into that life. But choice and collaboration and empowerment had to be, because they'll say, I'm leaving right now, I'm out of here, And I remember finally being like, what's the best harm reduction way, and asking, well, what can I provide you with that can support your safety while you're out there? I don't have the choice to keep you here against your will or to make you stay. These are the reasons why I see this in you. I see your progress. You've made so much progress, and I see your healing journey, and I know there's fear and all of that. You can say all the things. And if you choose to go back, what are things that we can do, ways that we can plan for your safety and well-being? Those choices are the hard ones. Those are the hard ones. So sometimes choice is unfavorable. And I know that as you're working with families and they're saying, I only want to do this or that. And you're like, why do you want to do that? But it's their choice. And sometimes giving that collaboration and empowerment means, okay, how can we do that in the safest way possible? Any thoughts before we go to the next slide? I just wanted to make sure because sometimes we can romanticize these things and make it seem like, oh yeah, we get trust and safety. Sometimes that is not so easy, but we still have to do the hard thing and plant those seeds.
And I love that you highlighted that too, Shavonna, because if any one of those circles gets misaligned or broken, for lack of better term, in whatever relationship or capacity that you're doing, those behaviors, it's that much more difficult to repair that connection based off of your previous dynamic. At least in my experience, particularly as a parent partner, if I had broken trust with a caregiver, to build that back, it wasn't as easy as I initially, was able to build trust prior. And so that's difficult to do.
And sometimes, bye, Elizabeth. Thank you for being here while you were. And definitely understand, Meg. And with the trust aspect, thinking about the fact that and I know you all are really busy. With the trust aspect, it's going to take us into our next one, focusing on impact, not intent, right? Our desire may be like, I really care about this person and I want to convey to them that I care. So I'm gonna, and I know they've been through a lot, so I'm gonna say, I promise I'll always be here for you. Right? That sounds like a way you're trying to really reinforce and encourage that relationship. But is that a promise you can make? You don't know if you'll get sick. You don't know if your family will need you. You don't know if you get fired. You can't make that promise, and you've broken that trust because you can't keep that promise, right? So sometimes, and so I'm going to take us to that next slide, as I was mentioning. Our feelings are okay. We have to be careful what we do with it. Sometimes, not being aware, we can convey those feelings to someone in a way that could be harmful or hurtful to them. And I'm asking that you hear them when they say, the way that landed on me was hurtful, or that didn't feel good, and be open to that conversation, even if that wasn't your intention. Because I've had it many times. Well, I didn't really, honestly, that landed different than it intended. So I'm sorry you felt that way. No. Hey, I'm sorry that my words hurt you. I'm really sorry. That wasn't my intent, but I want to make it right, and I want to figure out a different way to communicate in a way that I'm sharing with you that doesn't cause harm or doesn't. Because we make mistakes. We hurt people we love and unintentionally. So that self-awareness comes from being open to those types of conversations. When somebody says, hey, this landed for me in that way. Meg said, do what you say you will do. And Angelica has another meeting to attend. Thank you for being here, Angelica. Thank you all. I know your afternoons get really full. We're going to keep going. So earlier, you all were sharing about very good examples of my GRASP model. GRASP is gaining respect through actively seeking perspective. So I really want you all to know that you all know this. I don't even have to tell you this because I hear it in your voices. The only difference between us and the people we serve is grace and circumstance. We didn't choose our circumstances we were born into. We didn't choose the lifestyles that we had. We didn't choose the resources that came into our life or those protective factors. So we have to understand that as we're working with someone else, we want to actively seek their perspective. That's how we build that collaboration. That's how we build that connection. That's how we create an environment of belonging. And that's how we create environments that are steeped in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's how we do it. So understanding that there's no status differential and really being willing to put in the work to learn from the other person. You all gave really good examples of that in your family life, but there are so many ways that we can do that in the workplace. I think about it, and this may sound like a really silly example, but lunchtime. Someone comes with a different food that has a different smell or aroma than we're familiar with. And we see that they're eating something that maybe we're not used to or haven't seen that meal. It sounds silly, but it's so common to be like, ew, what is that? Or what's that smell? Or, oh my gosh, what is that? As opposed to coming from a place of curiosity. Irene, yes, I'd love to hear.
It's funny because I was working, we share an office, like 6 of us, and I will go in at 5. You know, obviously I had my heater on. Everybody will come in at 8, so 5 a.m. I'm already having breakfast and everything. So I used to like dump the yogurt on the trash. And I was like, oh, when it's a little bit, hot, I'll take it out like around 8 o'clock when my coworkers come in to be mindful, But my coworker will come and smell the yogurt. Like she will come in later on the day, but it will stay on the office. And I was like, but I threw it away like within hours, but I don't know, maybe the heater or just because I had the office closed. And she opened up a lot her trauma as, eating that as a child. And just there was a lot of stuff going around that she shared with me. So I didn't take any more yogurt, from there. I will eat it at home or I just didn't take it just to be mindful because I didn't know. At the beginning I was like, oh my God, but like in my head I was like, I like yogurt, and I'm here like 3 hours before you or even 4 hours before you. But when she shared what she had gone through and the smell, what it reminded her, I was like, I'm sorry, I will never bring it Like I'll eat it outside and throw it. Like I will never like make you feel uncomfortable. But just, how just that little smell will bring so much pain.
Wow. And it was so triggering, but for you to hear her and say, that's what we're talking about, actively seeking perspective. You gave her a safe place to be able to share that. And you're like, I want to hear where you're coming from. And I want to do things in a way that doesn't lead to you having harm. Now, are you responsible for the trauma that smell of the yogurt caused? No, we're not. I've heard people say, well, I'm not responsible for what my ancestors did, or I'm not responsible. True. And the healing can come from, how can I, in this time, create an environment that doesn't cause more harm? How can I be intentional about creating an environment that your interactions with me or your connection with me will lead to healing as opposed to more hurt? And that takes work. That takes work. That takes the hard conversations. That takes being willing to take those steps. As you all were saying, that takes sometimes doing the uncomfortable thing. That takes being able to listen to music you don't want to listen to, or being able to try things or learn about, being willing to clap when you're not supposed to clap during the performance, but you're like, okay, well, I might make a mistake. Meg said, yes, the point is not to feel guilty about the yogurt, is to realize I can now make a choice to prevent ongoing pain. Yes, thank you, Meg. Thank you, Meg. And so there are ways that we can step outside of our comfort zone to do the things to seek to understand the perspectives of others and create environments that have that sense of belonging. Any thoughts? You gave so many examples of this already. I don't want to belabor it, but any thoughts before I move to the next slide?
I'll just share real quick. I always think about like at work, not taking things too personal. Like I know that we do this work and sometimes we're still going through life, right? We're still going through situations, our own traumas, crises, and we're experiencing the work that we're actually helping others with. And so just being graceful and being aware that sometimes when my colleagues come in and they're maybe feeling some kind of way, or there's a behavior, not to take it so personal, because I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they're carrying when they're walking in the door. And I know sometimes I carry it. But my responsibility is to make sure that I'm self-aware of how I'm allowing that to be kind of distributed around me. And just, and so I think about that too, like just being graceful, just being aware that people are carrying stuff when they're coming to work, and not to take it so personal, and just trying to seek to understand, like checking in on them. Hey, are you okay? How are you doing? Because that goes a long way, because people even our supervisors, sometimes they're carrying things that we know nothing about. And, sometimes we stop to think that, hey, they're still living life too, so even checking on them and being like, hey, like, how are you doing? Those check-ins, I think, are important. And it helps us have a better understanding. Like, people sometimes, act the way they do is because they're going through something. And just because we're the professional doesn't mean we're not still living life.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean there's an expectation for us to be the emotional dumping bag of someone else. You can come from a place of curiosity and still have boundaries. Definitely when we're talking about coming from a place of, curiosity and checking, thank you for sharing that, because you never know what a person is going through. And as we're talking about being trauma informed, one really good indicator of whether something is a trauma response is if the circumstance is here, but their reaction is way up here, where you're like, whoa. But what tends to happen is, like the yogurt, that's a really good example. The circumstance was yogurt in the trash can. Her reaction was highly emotional, right? So that's when say she really got upset and she's like, she starts crying about the yogurt, but didn't disclose that it was triggering her. That could be a key indicator that, whoa, this is about more than my yogurt from this morning. Those are really good indicators. And when that happens, it does help to come from a place of curiosity, and not because we could be tempted to be like, well, why are they getting so upset with me about this? Or why are they tripping about this? Or why are they reacting that way? As opposed to, like you were just saying, coming from a place of curiosity, maybe this is not about me. And do I need to be their emotional punching bag? No. And maybe when the time is right or in an appropriate setting, it's okay for me to come from a place of curiosity and maybe seek to understand or maybe give some grace. Thank you. Anyone else? This is important when we're talking, even especially like language. And avoiding minimizing others' experiences. I had someone, she wanted to gift me, or she was telling me a story about something, but the language she used, and she was using another person's words. She was a neighbor, a business colleague, and she's like, yeah, this person had a racist sign on their door, and I won't even repeat what the sign said. It was very, very, very offensive to me and hurtful to me. And I ended the conversation and kind of set a boundary. And she said, well, I don't understand. She came to me later. Well, I mean, like, what's the big deal? You're so sensitive. Like my other Black friends don't have an issue with the things that I say. They know that, my intent is not to hurt. They know I'm not racist. So you're so sensitive. Not everybody's so sensitive like you. So when I think about really seeking to understand the perspective of another person and being willing to be intentional about not causing harm and not minimizing their experience, it does take work. It takes us to take a look at ourselves, like we talked about, that self-reflection and that self-awareness. Tasha said our feelings are not facts. True. Remember I said all of our feelings are okay. We just have to be mindful what we do with them. All of our feelings are okay. We're going to go to the next slide. So like I said before, grasp is to gain or obtain. You're seeking to obtain something from the other person. It's respect, relationship. Now respect can be relative. Some things that I think are disrespectful another person may not think is disrespectful. So that's where our curiosity and our open mind and open heart comes from. Growing up, my children, when if I called their name, their expectation was to come to where I was and to say yes, right? That was just kind of the way that I was raised and the way that I raised them. Sometimes they'd have friends come over and I'd say, Samantha, and she'd say, what? From the other room. Now, I have, in my household coming up, that was fighting words. I was like, wait, what? Did you just what me? And you didn't come to where I asked you? Like, I don't even want to talk about the trauma that would have caused, right? But now Samantha, that was normalized in her household. She wasn't being disrespectful. She was just answering the way she typically answered, right? So respect can be relative. I could have taken that as her disrespecting me. Or I can say, hey, Samantha, okay, which I did often. Like, I'm so glad to have you over, hun. Usually when, in our house, when I call the kids' names, we respond with yes, as opposed to what. I'm not saying that you did anything wrong, but that's just kind of the way we kind of respond in the house. So when I call your name in the house, you mind saying yes? And she'll, oh, yes, Ms. Gaylor. Oh, yes. And so she said, oh, yes, Ms. Gaylor. Yes, yes, yes. And it wasn't a disrespectful thing. We just came from a place of curiosity and learning and getting to know each other. Now, when she left, I didn't tell my kids, I have this disrespectful little friend. It was just different. It was different. Different didn't mean bad. It was just different. And so when people talk about, well, that's disrespectful, or it's all about respect, I always ask, respect to whom? Because respect means very different things to different people. In my house, I don't take off my shoes when we come in the house. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's not a big deal. But I know in some homes, taking off your shoes when you come in the house is a big deal. If I come into the house and I don't take off my shoes, am I being disrespectful? It's just a different expectation, right? It's just a different norm. Wendy said, you always teach that tone matters. Yes. But honestly, I don't care how pleasant my tone is. If I respond to my mom with what, it's gonna not be good. It could be the most pleasant what in the world. This is not gonna be a pleasant experience. So even at 50 years old. So yeah. But yeah, so respect. So when we're saying we want to obtain or earn, Danny, yes, Danny.
Oh, no, please finish your thought. I don't want
Oh,
to.
no. Girl, I mean, look, I'm gonna keep going. You good.
It's just one of those things that you have to learn. We have to set those expectations. And how many times, we joke about it now, but, and I learned this again through through the foster system, through raising the teens. Um, although it happened constantly in my life because I said so, right? And teen, it's much, you have to explain, I need you to take the trash out because at this certain time, because the truck comes at this certain time or this, and explain to them and providing that and having the respect to explain to them what the impact of their actions are and et cetera. And I find that as seeing a variety of the caregivers that I deal with now, some of them just, well, they're the children, and I told them to do it. I said, what? Well, they're going to respond with some resistance because you're just telling them to blindly do whatever. Get them engaged with it. Get them to be a part of it. Share with them why it's important to do those things. Don't be afraid. It's not a national secret. Just let them know why you need it and what the expectations are, and it's going to get so much. But a lot of times, again, our age, it's starting to get phased out, but we're still having the remnants of that because I told you so, do what I say, blah, 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 all of that. And I think this next generation or the generation after that will start the being more respectful and explaining is going to become more of the norm than what it is now.
Absolutely. And that why is so valuable for teaching and for all of that. Thank you. And Danae was saying that she was raised with the do as I say, not as I do. Her father was notorious for that as a child. I say all the time to the young people that we may, we adults, our older generations, we may have life skills and wisdom that we have to share with them, and there's value in that. However, they are teaching us emotional intelligence. They tend to be more emotionally aware, more vulnerable, more and leaning into those dynamics of in the social media age, TikTok age. They know about the diagnoses. They know about self-care. They know about mindfulness. They know about anxiety, and they know about ways to support each other. And they're showing us the way in that. And I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah. And I forgot actually the second part of that was my sister was working. She's taken a place where she's responsible for employees and whatnot. Even as adults, she had a lot of people going, "Oh, that person, they're just not. They're not responding. They're not doing. I'm going to have to let them go." And I'm like, "But look at the environment." And I said, "Well, look at the environment that they've been operating in. Give them a little bit. Give them some." Whatever. And now she was coming out, oh, so and so was doing this, and I'm gonna upgrade them to that and all that. And again, we just have to give, as we've talked about in this whole thing, about giving space. We don't know what people have gone through. We don't know what they woke up at. We don't know where people at. We have to take that minute to understand that we don't know what's going on in other people's lives, and because they react a certain way, it's not personal, and stop taking it that way. And you'll know if it's personal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then deal with it then. But I think a lot of us do think things are directed at us when it has nothing to do with us.
Absolutely. You all are definitely the heroes here. And I wonder if sometimes we're able to recognize that in certain settings more than in others. Some people are able to be very level when it comes to work, but not so much when it comes to home or personal life, and vice versa. They can, give people the benefit of the doubt personally, but at work, it's like, she don't even like me. I can't, so it's sometimes, being able to transfer those open minds, open hearts, and perspectives in both places. We'll continue. Now we want to look at learning styles, the different learning styles, because as we're talking about being trauma informed, and if y'all want to check the chat, it is active right now with all the parenting.
All the euphemisms we heard as children.
It is active.
Yep.
a lot of unlearning we're doing. So we were loved in ways that, are in ways that worked for them for many reasons and may no longer work. That doesn't mean we weren't loved. It just means that we're unlearning the way to manifest that as a parent. So there are different learning styles that we want to consider, especially when working with adults. So adults need to be involved in the planning and evaluation of their instruction. You notice in the beginning, I kind of gave you all offered the autonomy to either share by coming off mute, raising your hand, checking, texting. So you were able, put it in the chat, you were able to be involved in how it flowed, and how you contributed. We have the experiential learning, so includes mistakes, provides the basis for learning activities. So sometimes that comes by way of breakout groups. Sometimes that comes by way of activities. Sometimes that comes by way of asking questions and sharing, but adding an experience. And then meaningful, immediate relevance to their job and personal life. I give examples and try to make sure that we're tying it into your professional and your personal life. These are the ways to get the information to stick. So if you're giving presentations, if you're connecting with your peers, if you're conveying information, these are ways to help the information to stick. And then problem-based learning. Adult learning is problem-centered rather than content-oriented. So we really learn by, hey, how do we address this problem or this concern? I've given a couple of problems scenarios, like I gave about maybe a individual impacted by trafficking going back into the life. And how do we address that? Or how do we address maybe a circumstance with a youth or a work environment that doesn't have a sense of belonging? So we've been talking about how to problem solve together. And then just in time, adults learn best when the topic is of immediate value. Right now, this topic is very relevant to what's going on professionally and in our, professionally, because right now this topic is impacting a lot of federal funds. So it is relevant and has immediate value to what's happening right here and right now. So when you're looking at conveying some information to your team, maybe leading a team meeting, offering professional development, bringing in a training, any way that you can integrate some of this in some of these learning styles and these options into your presentations will be really valuable. Anybody have any thoughts or ways that they integrate these? Today, we could have definitely done more of some of these if we have more time. 2 hours doesn't allow for a lot of experiential or a lot of problem solving. But if we have more time, we definitely could have done quite a few more scenarios and things of that nature. Are you all willing to do another breathing activity with me and wiggle it out? I can tell it's afternoon, y'all had lunch. We're just like, okay, this is interesting, Shavonna, but whoo, I can tell I'm losing y'all. So let's see. In through the nose. Hold out through the mouth, wiggle it out, wiggle it out, wiggle it out, wiggle it out. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I see the yawn. I see the yawn. I know it's a long day. Don't forget. Yeah. Donna has entered some things in the chat as well. It's been a long day. So I'm just glad you all are still with me. And I'm gonna, if you don't mind, and if I don't get in trouble, I'm gonna wrap up a little early because I know you all want to get back to your afternoons. So we talked a little bit early about virtual versus in-person facilitation, and we talked about kind of how we can apply this belonging to virtual. So this is bonus. Being trauma-informed and providing a sense of belonging, being prepared. It is so important that you hop on early, have your tech together, have all of that stuff, and be as prepared as possible. Wear your favorite lipstick or not. Make sure you have on your earrings that you like. Today, I lit my candle before this because I wanted to have the zone. I wanted to open the blinds so I had the right amount of natural light. I had my water next to me, had a little candy. Just being prepared so that you can fully show up and be fully present. When you're prepared, you're not scrambling, looking for that thing. How many of you have been on a Zoom call and you have a cough attack and you don't have a water or a cough drop anywhere nearby and you're like, it's just an uncomfortable experience. So when doing virtual versus in person, you want to make sure that you're prepared. Your environment is prepared, your tech is prepared. Offer breaks. I definitely feel like we could have had a good break in between here, but short time together, so we're gonna get out earlier. Integrating movement, integrating music, we did some of that. Attention span, it's believed that adults only retain 50 minutes of information at a time. So I would have loved to maybe have done a break at the 50-minute mark. Just to take a break, get some retention, do some activities, maybe stand, stretch, things like that. Just kind of keeping that in mind. And intersectionality and facilitation. We want to make sure that we are trying a lot of different styles, doing a lot of different things, and incorporating a lot of different voices in our facilitation. Let's see, what else do we have here? Yeah, webinars are difficult to incorporate breaks because we have recordings, for sure, for sure. So now the last but not least thing that I want to cover with you all is when thinking about conflict resolution. Even with all that being trauma informed, even with all of the intention we can put around setting norms and creating environments of belonging, we will still have conflict. There will still be that one who does not like you, or vice versa. There will still be some different perspectives. There will still be conflict. So I did want to provide just some little pointers for how we navigate through the conflict that is inevitable to arise. So pointing fingers, remember we talked about kind of like, let's avoiding the blaming and shaming. Trying to use language that avoids blaming and shaming. We can use I statements. You know, I feel, this has been my experience, this is what I feel. Maintaining that calm tone. And we talked about a lot of things before, coming from a place of curiosity, coming from an openness, a willingness to see their perspective. Using grasp, we want to gain respect by actively seeking their perspective. What does respect look like for you? How can I convey this in a way where you would receive it? Another thing is considering, there's an article that I might share with you all called The 5 Love Languages in the Workplace. And if you're familiar with the love languages, there are ways to integrate the love languages into your work, into the workplace. And it sounds odd for love languages in the workplace, but there are ways of people, if they resonate with words of affirmation, maybe giving accolades to them publicly when you want to recognize them. There are different ways to integrate that. So there are different strategies. And of course, knowing when to apologize. Being willing to apologize and accept the fact that that was an impact that was made. We talked a lot about impact over intent. Okay, it may not have been my intent to be hurtful or to be offensive or to drop the ball on that assignment or that task, but I did, and I apologize. So knowing when to apologize. And we're gonna continue. So I'm going to close with this, and then I know we have, do we have evaluations, Donna?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm going to close with coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, but working together is success. So we are able to work together when we create that sense of belonging for all, when we're all intentional about creating that sense of belonging. And I have enjoyed the opportunity to be here with all of you. I'm gonna stay, of course, for more time, should you have any more questions or concerns, but there's also the evaluation poll being shared by James, and I'm gonna turn the floor over to Donna and James.
Awesome, Shavonna. Thank you so much. James did launch our evaluation poll. Please take a moment to fill it out, as we do read and look at all of your feedback provided, and we do incorporate it. So we listen to what you say. And this is our 6th peer partner focused webinar, even though it's open to everyone in all roles. However, the feedback has been they need to be longer and they're webinars. We can, but please give us all your feedback. We hear you. What topics are you looking for? What did you appreciate? What can we do better? And we will incorporate that for you. A huge, huge thank you all for joining us on this Wednesday from 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know you all are actively working alongside youth and families with family serving systems in it, billing, you name it. We know you're in the trenches, and to take the time out of your day in the afternoon to be here, a huge thank you and shout out to all of you. This is getting recorded. So if any of your coworkers in your organization or county had to miss today because of actively working, it will be recorded. We can view it. So with that, a huge thank you to Shavonna in leading us in this impactful and just grounding experience around diverse and trauma-informed practices and building equitable skills for service delivery. You know, I heard so many wonderful takeaways, and I think just the one that stuck with me most was the first one that was dropped this morning. You know, when I have done and had conversations around intimate partner violence and hearing counties and organizations or frontline workers use the term perpetrator has never sat well with me. And thank you for allowing me to finally shift the focus, and let's just call people by their names and not by if they're a victim or a perpetrator or how they've been harmed in some way or another. So I really, really appreciate that. Don't forget, Shavonna will be continuing this conversation in our follow-up focus session on Thursday, June 6th from 1 to 3 o'clock, a more intimate and deeper setting for a discussion to continue. You can also bring forward any family or youth that you are currently working alongside, or bring any dynamics that you are experiencing within your organization or county. We can absolutely talk and think through that as well. Those sessions are facilitated by the amazing Lorena Molina, who is here with us today. And we always have an amazing panel of peer partners to sit in those sessions as well. If you were all here for Kelly Bazzani's webinar, Transforming Adolescent Substance Abuse, she is coming back on Friday, and I should have wrote down the date, and I apologize. Please hold quick like a bunny. May 16th from 1 to 3 o'clock. I am going to put the registration link in there. She will be joining us to do a deeper dive from her session, Transforming Adolescent Substance Use Outcomes. Here's the link for Kelly's focus session. I also am dropping our resources and courses document that has all of these links, our website, all the fun and amazing things that you can find at the Resource Center for Family Focused Practice. Shameless plug, all of our courses and classes are free. You just have to sign up and make a registration. There is no charge. And finally, thank you for your presence and your commitment, for making, you know, the work that we do equitable and healing for the youth and families that we walk alongside. It is always my honor and pleasure to share space with all of you. I am so proud to be here and to be able to deliver webinars like this with presenters like Shavonna Gaylor, in partnership with Kayla Granderson from the California Department of Social Services, the Family Center Practice Unit. Her passion, charge, and just commitment she has to our peer community specifically. We couldn't do this work without her, so thank you. And with that, once you finish the poll, we'll give you back 38 minutes of your day. And Shavonna will be here if you have any other questions or last minute comments, reflections. We would love to hear it. So thank you so very much.